My point of view on oneness is not enough people realise it and talk about it.
I'm saying that it doesn't exist, it can't exist, and it shouldn't exist.
Well, look under a microscope and look at scientific papers that prove it's a fact.
They don't prove that it's a fact.
You might want to read some scientific papers on it.
So give me some scientific papers to go away and read.
Splitting the apple. Oh, no, I don't know. Do Google. I'm telling you about tribes of people. If you're in one as a staunch Christian, right, there's staunch Muslims, there's people who aren't going to suddenly convert to Christianity in my lifetime. I'm clearly a different tribe.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, oneness is amongst all of us.
So what is the oneness that unites me and you? Because I can't find it.
Well, there you go. Good luck in your world. That's the fact I'm talking, and I'm not like having a fight with you. That to me means we are one, because at least I'm not going to harm you. Do you understand an expression, the weakest link is also the strongest?
No, that
That's
makes
what I
no
mean.
sense.
To you, but at some point you'll see why it makes entire sense.
This kind of supermarket spirituality is the problem.
Oh yeah, I bought it in Tesco's.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you Just for those that are joining this conversation a little bit late, what's your name again?
Gary.
Gary is speaking about the spiritual fact of the oneness of all things. Describes himself as a Christian by default, says that Christ is the optimum, but says that Christ is in him, or that you are the Christ. Is that how I don't want
I would
to
certainly not use those as my words. And
so I don't want to put words into your mouth. So just re-express again your view of Christ and oneness.
So the Christ within every one of us, in my eyes, is our highest truth, our better self. So the Christ energy runs through all of us as a choice every day, man and woman. That's what it is to me.
So Christ is, as it were, an archetype of the bestness of ourselves.
Yeah.
So Christ is not a real person in history, or do you believe
it can
that
be if you need it to be, but it's actually just a place to anchor your best self is a Christ energy.
So
Christos.
I don't want to get too bogged down in terms, but we have to make a distinction that we have the Christ of history who lived 2,000 years ago, and then we have this Christ that you're speaking of now, which you're using as a pseudonym for our better self, a higher morality, a higher spiritual journey. Is that a fair?
Yeah.
Is it fair to make that distinction? Okay. So you now just express again what you said about the oneness of us all.
So that's it. We're one.
We are one.
There's no distinction.
Are me and you distinct right now?
In this moment, yes.
So there is a distinction.
But under the microscope, no.
Under the microscope. So you're saying that the microscope, this camera, cannot see the distinction between us.
It chooses we give labels to things, names, people. They're words that we give to separate the oneness.
Are you denying that we have separate consciousness?
To a degree. I mean, if you want to take spirituality as far as you can go, these monks don't sit up in mountains and do nothing. There's a lot we can do with our psyche.
Which monks are we talking about?
Any monks, they dedicate themselves to something that most Westerners wouldn't be able to discuss.
The Western Christian tradition has its own tradition of monks, and they would very much disagree with you about the idea of what you can discuss. In fact, they would invest a great deal of time and energy in discussing the divine, God. And they discuss God as an actual reality, a metaphysical reality outside of the natural world. And they wouldn't say, as you are saying, that me and you are one, because me and you are clearly not one. We are not one conscience, we're not one set of atoms, we're not even in agreement about what we believe. So in what way are we one?
Everything is one, experience in itself. Like, this is a big pile of oneness.
So you're talking to yourself?
On the core level, yeah.
So why does yourself disagree with you?
Because everyone has free will, right? We got billions of free wills, and there's a lot that we don't agree with from where we come into this world. But we're at a time now where conversations have to be had amongst people who are at least not barbaric in nature, because we can all become barbaric. Like, that's the oneness. We're all of it, potentially. Some of us have got a privileged position, and we can connect. England being one country where that's possible. It's like a flagship.
So, what I'm struggling to reconcile is your statements describing reality and all my sensory experience that tells me you're wrong. Do you agree that your sensory experience is there to inform you?
No, I would just say that as an ongoing process, learning every day. Like, having a fixed point of view on how it is, regardless, in my book, it's like, man, you haven't had experience, because every day I change. There's new things that come
with
about.
respect, this wasn't an answer to my question. My question was, does your sensory experience inform you? Your sensory experience
it makes
of
me
touch,
question,
of
because you're like,
smell,
so you
of
see
ears,
a separate.
of
You're saying
sight.
by the fact that if I recognise you as a separate being,
Yes.
you're then saying to me that my oneness notion is false. That's
Yes.
your main point. Which
Yes.
I'm saying, great, good luck to you in your world. But my world, I'm like, we're really trying to unify it. And like, there's no place for division on
So,
any.
are you looking for unity between different communities and
Absolutely.
different races
We have to
and
respect
ethnicities
that people
and
are different.
religions?
It doesn't work all at the same time, but in England we can talk about it.
So your politics is guiding your understanding of reality.
Just subjective reality, what I see.
Yeah, but it's being guided by a political imperative to find some kind of unity between
No, I
the
found
different
unity.
groups.
That's why I know the facts. And that is like the message that if everyone started the day from the fact of oneness, we might not make so many bad decisions.
But if it's a fact, it surely must be a fact that others can observe.
No, it's very tough. There's various practices and techniques, but you have to be strong up here
Yeah.
to be able to go forward with it. It's not for everyone. Most people are just peaceful and loving, and the fact that we weren't attacking them, they'd agree that they're one, they're my brothers and sisters, they're not harming me.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's levels of consciousness. Not everyone can take on the big pill. It's a responsibility.
I think this kind of Gnostic understanding of knowledge, this idea that, you know, that some people can achieve this level of consciousness and others can't,
No, everyone can if they want to and they're open
but they
to
haven't.
it. No, because it's frightening.
And I think a lot of what you're saying about other people is very patronizing.
In what sense?
Well, you're assuming that you have achieved a level of consciousness that others have not yet achieved, but if they just try harder, they can achieve it. When in reality, I am as much a spiritual person as you are, and I am as much trying to find the truth as you do, and yet everything that I know and understand contradicts what you're saying.
Yeah, but one of the things they say is knowing you know nothing. You know nothing.
Who are they, sorry?
That's a saying, it's not my own.
Who
knowing
who's
you know
saying?
nothing, it's a saying. Knowing you know nothing
Yeah.
is a very humbling experience.
Forgive me, but this sounds more like the spirituality of the supermarket. You go down and you pull a nice rhetorical catchphrase here, and you walk a bit further down the aisle and you pull out another rhetorical phrase there, and you dress them up and then present them to people as a spirituality. When in reality, spirituality, if it is to have any meaning, must correspond to reality. If it doesn't correspond to reality, it's a fantasy. And I suggest to you that because of your past use of drugs, which you spoke to me about a bit off camera, that this has affected your ability to see reality for what it is.
No, it's like I can't see outside of it. It is one. My vision, everything's connected. Like the Matrix, movies point towards it. Like it's all connected. I can't unsee it. That's the problem, and that's why it's sad when we have serious problems amongst communities, because the facts are we're all here together.
I would ask you to comment on this phrase of the Christ. Christ says, "I haven't come to bring peace, but the sword, to turn daughter against mother, to turn son against father, to turn brother against brother, because anyone who chooses father, mother, brother or sister before me is not worthy of me." How do you understand Jesus' words?
That sounds awesome. Like, I'd say that is literally the spiritual sword that you go into your life with. That's why I refer to Christ.
Doesn't that cut at the very heart of what you're saying about the idea that humanity is one? Because Christ is saying that he himself is of such importance that he will not only be the cause of division, but that those who choose not to be divided against those who do not choose Christ are not worthy of Christ.
So what are you saying?
So what I'm saying to you is that Christ says that he is the touchstone of truth, of reality. He's the touchstone of spirituality, the touchstone of right and wrong, and that those that contradict him or disagree with him or are opposed to him are in opposition to him and his community. And he sees that division, that conflict, as a good thing.
Cool.
But that contradicts what you're saying.
No, I'm saying if you're doing Christ and other people want to join in, that's part of moving forward. People who are in with that, great. Enjoy.
Then I invite you to follow the logic of your argument and to abandon your own philosophy and to embrace the philosophy of Christ. Because Christ's philosophy contradicts your philosophy.
Well, each to their own, I beg to differ.
So give me evidence.
Well, you're saying I can't be right unless I follow a certain way.
Yes.
And I'm saying I haven't got time for it. Like, life is short.
Yeah. And what I'm suggesting to you is that when you claim Christ, if we speak of Christ as a great spiritual teacher, which indeed he was, if Christ's words contradict your own opinions, you have a choice to make.
No, I just listened and I told you it doesn't contradict. It did in your opinion.
So explain to me how it doesn't contradict you.
Well, if you were to say what you said again, I would say I can apply that in my life experience.
Okay, so tell me how you would apply this teaching. That
If
Christ said,
if anyone wanted to argue with me, I'd just say my reference to Christ is that's your better self.
but that's not what Christ said. Christ, when he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, is speaking of himself as a historical person in a historical time and context. He's not speaking of himself as some mystical inner spirituality. He's speaking as a real historical person, and he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one goes to the Father but through me. Christ says that he who chooses mother, father, brother, or sister before me, himself, is not worthy of him. So Christ is setting himself up in this position of uniqueness as the way of spirituality, as the touchstone of truth. That means that it's not about my opinion, it's not about your opinion, and God bless you all, it's about none of your opinions either. It's about what Christ has said of himself and how we conform or reject what he's saying.
Who is Christ? Who is Christ?
Take questions in a moment. I just want to give this brother a chance to respond.
Well, there's no need. Like, I don't see where you're coming from. Like, feel free.
What I'm saying to you is that Christ contradicts you, and that no one who contradicts Christ can claim to follow Christ.
No, it's your version of what Christ is. My version of what Christ is to me is that's all
How
that
come
there
you have a
is.
version of Christ from the one that
He's
everybody
describing a
has?
historical figure, which I haven't got time to read about. I'm just talking. My Christ energy is in my
Doesn't
life.
that contradicts the fact that you don't choose a God for yourself?
Brother, the point I'm saying to you is that Jesus was a real person in history.
In your opinion?
No,
That's what I'm
no,
saying.
not just in my opinion, it's the opinion of every academic scholar and the vast majority of the people in the world accept that Christ was a real person. In fact, the very few people that argue that Christ was a mythological character not based in reality, in historical reality, is microscopic.
It's because it's too much hassle. Like, people don't say their opinions. Like,
And this is the spirituality of the modern age. That kind of spirituality that says, I just pick what suits me. I just pick from the shelf of spiritualities.
That's exactly what
which
I'm saying I do, like, as an eclectic. Like, there's more than one religion and there's more than one way of looking after yourself. As an eclectic, I couldn't stand in one tribe for my whole life.
can truth contradict itself?
Eventually, I'm sure, at some point.
If something contradicts itself, can it be true?
Depends.
So, for example, if I say that north is south and that south is north, is that true or false?
Mate, I'll tell you what, it depends, doesn't it?
Okay, if I say that gravity is pulling us, okay, and then you say that gravity is pushing us away, who's right?
Whatever the truth is on the matter, like, it's what I'm saying, it depends. What are you getting at?
So my point to you is that though things that contradict reality or things that contradict themselves, if I say that black is white and white is black, or say that in X is wrong, and then in the next breath say that X is right, the law of self-contradiction means that those two statements can't both be true.
They can, it's all perception. For example, those trousers are blue, yeah? Someone might be colourblind and they are red to that person. So
the decipher there is the fact that the person is colorblind.
yeah.
So that's not true.
So the perception.
If he's not colorblind, he will see what is right.
The brother beat me to the punch, but essentially, colour is something that is given off at a certain spectrum of the magnetic field, the electromagnetic field, and we receive it through the eye and interpret the data. This is normative, that the electromagnetic spectrum that we see as black, blue, red or white doesn't change. The reality is the same, the reality remains the same. So what I'm saying to you is it is not about perception. It is not a matter of perception that gravity pulls us to the core of the earth. You know, it doesn't matter if your perception says I feel more, you know, to quote Phoebe from Friends, I'm not so much pulled as pushed. You know, that's completely irrelevant to the fact. Your perception means nothing. It is what is real that counts. And that which is real is something that we can look at physically through physics. It's something that we can look at through chemical, mathematics, history. We can look at it through various different means. And one thing that we must have is humility of heart enough to say that I can be taught, that I can learn. If you say that because my opinion is X, X therefore is true, and you are unwilling to reconsider X as a point of truth, then that shows pride in your heart. Now, would you say pride is a good or a bad thing?
I'd like to know who Christ
No,
is.
it's the same as anything. It's a double-edged sword. It can be great to take pride in what you do, but it can also be like egoic, too much pride.
So is egotistical pride a bad thing?
I would say so, as a general.
And as a Christian, I totally agree with you. As a Christian, we have to walk humbly before our God. This is the nature of Christian spirituality. To walk humbly. Now, if we are to walk humbly before our God, that means that we're always referring to God to be our teacher. Yeah?
So what's in front of you will teach you if you're open to listen.
But from what I'm hearing, you're not saying what is in front of me teaches me. You're saying that what is within me teaches me. Everything you've said suggests that.
Well, it's similar. You've confused me with how you put it. It's one and the same.
But what is outside of you is not inside of you. That's a self-contradictory statement.
No, again, like, man, it's just hard to point with these words at what we're saying, because I'm talking oneness the whole time,
Yeah.
no division. You're telling me that I'm wrong, and there's a position to come to,
Yes.
which will then be right. And generation after generation, too many people have said that. And what I'm saying is there's other people and other sects that say the same, but from their own point of view.
Yes.
And then, as an eclectic, to try and like galvanise what it is that makes us one, like it is not standing in a standpoint and saying this is the only way.
Why is oneness important?
Where it's
I
the key.
say conflict is a good thing. I say conflict and division is a good thing.
You're a warmonger.
That's what I say.
He's a warmonger.
That peace at any price, that harmony at any price is a bad thing. So, tell me why I'm wrong.
No, if that's the world you want to live in, I'm just saying that there's a better way of doing it, in my opinion, and that is people joining together and doing something better than trying to be right.
So, trying to be right, trying to be truthful, trying to be...
Starting from the basis of oneness, that's what I'm saying.
So tell me, why is this oneness important? Why is my statement that conflict is a good thing bad?
Well, it might be part and parcel and just like unavoidable. I'm not saying it's not, But in the process, I would much prefer what I see as like people trying to come together.
So this preference, where is that coming from?
Just because like if it doesn't come together in front of me, I'll be living a not so nice experience.
Okay, so and forgive me for being harsh, but I think this is an utterly selfish spirituality. It is an utterly egotistical spirituality to say that you are the arbiter of truth and that your own imperatives and based upon your own comforts are the thing that decide for you what is true. For me, something is true even if it makes our life more difficult. Something is true even if it involves sacrifice.
So the only thing that's true for you is your Bible. Like if anything else comes in, you're closed off to it.
No, that's actually a mischaracterization of my position, but I don't blame you. That's a common mischaracterization. So the point that I'm making to you is that you would, I think, say that selfishness is a bad thing.
It certainly can be, but like anything, there's two sides to it. I'm sure there's a way of being selfish which will help the greater good in a certain situation. So then you'd be like, how was that selfish?
Okay. Well, I would suggest to you that selfishness is a bad thing. And a spirituality built upon my own comfort, because that's the logic of what you said. You said that if I don't have this imperative of oneness, the world in which I live would be a worse world that would make me uncomfortable because there would be conflict.
I'm just totally, my point of view on oneness is not enough people realise it and talk about it.
I'm saying that it doesn't exist, it can't exist, and it shouldn't exist.
Well, look under a microscope and look at scientific papers that prove it's a fact.
They don't prove that it's a fact.
You might want to read some scientific papers on it.
So give me some scientific papers to go away and read.
Splitting the apple. Oh, no, I don't know. Do Google. Like, I'm not here with my facts. I'm just telling you how I see it.
Yeah, exactly.
It
And
just so happens that science backs me up.
And what I'm suggesting to you is science contradicts you.
How?
Because, well, it is an observable reality that we are not one. And that it is an observable reality that I am not one with the tree.
Stop you on that. It's an observable reality that when they split the atom, they see space between the atom. And we're all made up of atoms. So if space runs between the atoms, that is the unifying force for our consciousness. It's one.
So
it's
you're
indivisible.
So you're
Science
saying
can't contradict me because it can't be proved. But what they do prove is that the atom has space between it.
So you're saying space is the unifying force?
Well, no, because again, it's the word that we're using to point at what I'm saying is deeper. Because if it runs through us all, I go as far as to say it's the oneness of God.
And in the kindest way that I can, I'm saying you're talking nonsense.
Because you're coming from the standpoint of you are right. What I'm telling you is there's a bigger picture of people
Are you
just
not
like
right?
you.
Are you wrong?
I can be open to being wrong.
It doesn't sound like you are.
Well, because oneness is the only thing that I know is a fact.
The one fact that you're presenting to me is contradicted by all observable data. It is contradicted by all sociological data.
They won't
it is
read
contradicted.
it. They don't like it. People like
Who?
Rupert
The
Sheldrake.
whole world?
Rupert Sheldrake done a talk at TED Talks. He talks in it. He's not a stupid man. They don't want to hear it.
So you
People
heard a
aren't
TED
used to it.
talk,
Not
and
a
you're
TED
building
talk.
your
No,
philosophy on
no,
it.
I'm telling you about tribes of people. If you're in one as a staunch Christian, right? There's
Yeah.
staunch Muslims. There's staunch.
Yeah.
There's people who aren't going to suddenly convert to Christianity.
Yeah, you're
in
right.
my lifetime. I'm clearly a different tribe.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, oneness is amongst all of us.
So what is the oneness that unites me and you? Because I can't find it.
Well, there you go. Good luck in your world. That's the fact I'm talking, and I'm not like having a fight with you. That to me means we are one, because at least I'm not going to harm you.
Proposition A is not leading to your conclusion.
You don't like what you're hearing. You think you're going to convert me to being a
No.
one-sect
I am
Christian.
honestly not, because I accept that you're a full cup. I really do.
What's a Vulcan?
I accept that you're a full cup.
Yeah,
What I'm
what is a
suggesting
Vulcan?
to you, what I'm suggesting to you,
Excuse me,
is
what
that
is-
if you just bear
what
with
is
us,
it?
sir,
Yeah,
me
but
and him
what
are
is
having
a
a
Vulcan?
conversation. If you just bear with us, sir, me and him
But
are
what
having
is
a
it? Because I
conversation.
don't understand.
If you just bear with us, sir,
So what's
me
a
and him
Vulcan?
are having a conversation. A full cup.
Vulcan, what is it?
A cup of water that is full.
All right.
Okay, so,
A full cup.
yes, a full cup. So,
Have a drink.
So my point to you is, this is the philosophy sometimes that you encounter at Speaker's Corner. So my point to you is, bro, is that your spirituality is the very definition of egotistical. Because you're saying to yourself that because you want to live in a world without conflict, where there is harmony,
No, I'm just saying that the conflict
This
seems
is-
to be inevitable. And
It is
I would
inevitable.
much prefer harmony in the
So,
meantime.
exactly. So you're saying you prefer harmony, and that is deciding for you how you see reality, rather than allowing reality to speak for itself. I think if something is to be true, it has to correspond to reality. And if it doesn't correspond to reality, it's not true. If you say that the sun does not emit light, you're contradicting reality, and therefore your statement is not true. It is.
You
It is.
prefer war, he prefers harmony.
I'm saying
No,
that
no, no, no.
conflict
Don't for me.
is not a bad thing. I am saying that people who make peace an imperative and then allow that imperative to decide their philosophical and theological understanding of the world and of metaphysics are being guided more by a political ideology than they are by an observation of reality. And if you are allowing your ideology to distort the way you see reality, then your narrative is false. And I believe that your spirituality, that is based upon the fact that you just want to live in a nice, comfy world,
That's how you're seeing
is harming you.
It's not like that. No. The reality of the fact that it's not comfy for enough people means changes have to come.
So this is what you're saying. You're saying you want the world to be a nicer place. You want everyone just to get along.
What's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that. But when you allow that imperative to become the basis of understanding the universe, then you're distorting reality, and that's why it's wrong. I like the idea of people living in peace. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. These are Christ's own words. So making peace is a Christian imperative. But making peace for me doesn't distort how I see the reality around me. And it doesn't mean that I'm willing to call black white and white black and say that everything is the same just because I want some kind of narrative by which I can find cosmic harmony, because that cosmic harmony is not there. You have to make peace. It's a proactive concern. You can't talk it into existence. You can't believe it into existence. And to make it exist, you have to find those things upon which man can unify.
Oneness of God.
The oneness of God. So are you saying that God exists?
Yeah.
Is God you?
Part of.
Part of. Is God part of the universe?
It is the universe.
God is the universe.
And
So,
everything in between.
so philosophically speaking, this is what we would call pantheism. Now, do you believe in the Big Bang?
If you want to, it depends.
No, I'm asking you if you believe in the Big Bang.
Well, it depends how you look at it. The Big Bang never stopped, that's why it's big.
That's a true statement. The Big Bang has never stopped. It is ongoing and has been ongoing since the beginning. It says in Isaiah that I am the Lord thy creator. I have created all things. By my power alone I have stretched out the heavens. Which is the most poetic description of the Big Bang ever. And it was a Roman Catholic priest who discovered the evidence for the Big Bang. And the universe has been expanding since a common singularity in which all matter and energy, time and space were contained in a singular point from which it is now expanding.
That's interpretation.
It is,
It's not a fact.
it is a fact.
How do you define Big Bang?
Right, one second. I just want to draw out the point that I'm making. If the universe had a beginning, which is what we conclude from the fact that it did expand, that it came from a point, that it came from, there was a point when it was not, then that means God had a beginning. Now, how can God create
That's
himself?
the opinion, isn't it? If you're coming from a point of where the Big Bang started and everything come from it, that's because you believe in the Big Bang.
So do you believe the universe has just gone on to exist continuously?
It just is what it is.
Well, what is it?
God.
So the universe is God. The
Everything.
universe had a beginning.
In your book, I'm telling you that it don't really matter. Beginning and end are the same for me in oneness. I'm just saying it was there in the same paradox that it wasn't.
And this is the problem with 21st century modern spirituality.
It's everywhere.
It is full of self-contradiction. The brother has just said that the end is the beginning and the beginning is the end.
Alpha and
That is
Omega.
a self-contradictory comment.
You believe that as well, Alpha and Omega.
I don't believe that the end. No, you're misquoting a passage in Revelations.
Do you understand an expression, the weakest link is also the strongest?
No, that
That's
makes
what I
no
mean.
sense.
It's to you, but at some point you'll see why it makes entire sense.
This kind of supermarket spirituality is the problem.
Oh yeah, I bought it in Tesco's.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you did. You pulled it off of Google. But the point is, which is the supermarket of knowledge, the point is that if you are saying things that are blatantly self-contradictory, like the beginning is the end and the end is the beginning,
Alpha and Omega.
yeah, this phrase that this brother quotes is from Revelations. If you're going to make that argument, you need to know the verses you're quoting.
Go for it. I'm not quoting any verses. I'm just saying where it is.
The point. All right. So, in the book of Revelations, in chapter 22, Christ says of himself that I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end.
It makes sense when Christ
What
says
he's
it, but not me.
let me finish. What he is referring to is that he is the creator of all things, that all things have their beginning in him. But if he is the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, well, what can come before the first?
The first.
What can come before the first? Nothing. What can come after the last? Nothing. So he's saying that he is outside of the creation, that he is something separate from time and space.
That is what I was pointing out to you with science. When they split the atom, they can't observe that space. And that is what is outside of us, which I'm pointing towards saying it's God. And you've just told me that Jesus said that as well.
Space is a mathematical measurement between 2 points. Okay? Now,
And you're saying that point before, the nothingness,
the nothing,
that
absolutely
is what
nothing.
Christ is in, yeah?
I am saying that outside of time and space, there is God.
Right.
Yes.
And I'm saying
You're
that space
saying-
that science can't observe.
You're saying God is the universe.
Yes.
But but if God is the universe, well, the universe is time, space, energy, and matter,
And everything else.
right, and everything else. But if God is time, space, energy, and matter, He's not outside of time, space, energy, and matter.
Mate, it's one of those, like, I'm not trying to like dodge it. Like, I can't answer it from your standpoint.
Because the truth that the statement you're taking these catchphrases,
They're not though.
these spiritual catchphrases, and then you're trying to construct a worldview from them, and that worldview does not work. It neither corresponds to reality, nor is it internally coherent.
Oneness.
All kind of New Age spirituality has the same fault.
Mate, you're calling it New Age like it's something new. Since the beginning, it's been one.
So you're saying that it's new. So show me.
You're telling me it's New Age. I'm telling you
It
it's
is a New
beginning
Age
stage.
spirituality.
No, it's the facts. You
It's a
didn't have to-
distortion of Far Eastern spiritualities like Buddhism and Hinduism. It's a westernized version of it.
That's your
It's
opinion.
the comfy mattress is our God approach to spirituality.
If that's how
God
you
is
feel.
what I want it to be.
You can't
Because
decide.
the God that you want to believe in is a God that makes no moral imposition on you.
To you, that's your opinion. I'm telling you, right? It's not a done deal. It's forever fluid and changing. But the oneness is absolute in my tribe.
So show me which of the teachers, great teachers of spirituality taught this?
Well, it's just like Mugtao, isn't it? Just go your own way.
Tell us who. Go on. Which great
That's what I'm saying. It's
which
just
great
like
teacher?
experience.
Which great
Like,
teacher?
say, if I go back
They
to some
exist.
community, they don't realise that all these people exist and have opinions. They're very closed up. And I'm saying that I'm open to more opinions, and I'm not going to be sticking to one and having this point of conflict's a good thing. I'm saying it is inevitable. I'm not like airy-fairy leftist politics. I think we should all be able to go everywhere, but we're hitting a reality. And the reality is trouble, and we must like unite under the fact that we do want a peaceful time
Thank you.
together.
And I get what you're saying, but what you're doing is you're allowing your political desires to guide your understanding of reality. And what I'm trying to suggest to you is that is a bad way to go about the exercise of discovering truth.
Then maybe then in a few days, weeks or months, I might process the conversation and I'll feel different.
Yeah, I'm not attacking you.
I'm not saying
I want
but
to.
what I'm getting at is like, so you've got an opinion of me having an opinion. And I'm just saying this is just the way it is for me. And
Which means you have an opinion. So what I'm saying to you is that if you are allowing your political desires to influence your spiritual worldview,
Well, it just naturally does.
and what I'm saying to you that is the wrong way round.
That's all
As a
right.
Christian, we allow our politics to be influenced by our faith. We shouldn't allow our faith to be influenced by our politics. This is the Christian way of spirituality, is that you start with the truth that is given through the prophets and the apostles, and then you reason forward from there. What you're doing is you're saying that because I want a world where there is less conflict between tribes, I will allow that to inform the philosophical reality by which I interpret the world.
It's quite hard to carry on.
And what I'm saying is, it doesn't work like that.
All right.
It doesn't work like that. Because all that is doing is showing the sort of cultural indoctrination that we're imposed to, that we are imposed upon by the society around us. The society around us has indoctrinated us into a certain politics. And that certain politics doesn't actually bear to truth, because truth is a reality. It is, in my opinion, but it is, in my opinion, based upon an authority which is Christ. Because Christ says that I am the way, the truth, and the life, and that no one goes to the Father but through me. Yeah. All right. We'll leave it there. You look after yourself. Have you? Tell me, bro. Have you got a Bible at home? I would encourage you, brother. Pick up your Bible and read it. Pick up your Bible and read it. Then there's a way around that. You can get the Bible on audio version via the internet,
Change the words.
and it can be read to you. Yeah. So you can have the Bible read to you if you can't read it for yourself. Okay?
They interpret it.
So, no, they're just going to read it to you.
I've done studies. I've been through it. It's not for me.
Brother, this kind of excuse making,
No, it's too difficult. It was written about 2,000 years ago or something, wasn't it? It's like I talk different now.
absolutely. It was written 2,000 years ago. There are modern translations using modern vocabulary that you can listen to. Now, if you are genuine about wanting to seek the oneness of all things and the truth wherever you find it, then it would be worth having a look to see what Christ claims to be the truth. Take care. So we'll do a wrap up. We'll do a wrap up, and then if anyone wants to ask any questions, we'll take questions. So let's do a wrap up, and then we'll do questions. So what we've seen is the spirituality of the 21st century on display. The supermarket spirituality of modern Britain, which is going down the shelf of Google, doing searches for nice little catchphrases, guided by a political ideology, a political prism of multicultural, let's all get along and live in harmony meta-narrative, and then choosing those spiritualities. And what that portrays is the fact that as a society, we have been indoctrinated by the state. And the state is telling us that truth doesn't matter. What matters is harmony. And only those truth claims that correspond to harmony are valid. And any truth claims that contradict the idea of harmony are invalid. However, as Christians, we follow a different spirituality. It is not about our own opinion. It is not about what the state says. It is about what the apostles and the prophets teach, and it is about the fear of the Lord. 1 second, the questions afterwards. Well, questions afterwards, brother. Please listen. So, it is about the Christian spirituality is about the fear of the Lord, which is the beginning of wisdom. It is the beginning of wisdom. So as Christians, rather than coming with what the state says or what our own opinions are, we come before the Lord with a humble heart. We look at what the apostles and the prophets teach, We take them on as our worldview, guided by the scholars like the church fathers and the commentators on scripture, and then we move forward from there. And the internal disposition, the inner man, the spiritual inner source is transformed through that process.
Surely you're not after a man.
And that means we follow that truth wherever it leads us. If that truth leads us into harmony, brilliant. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. We Christians are concerned about making peace. But if following the truth, which is the touchstone of which is Jesus, leads us into conflict, then for the sake of truth, that conflict is a good thing. Which means that the political ideology with which we've received through state education and reinforced through the media, the TV, the radio and the newspapers is a lie. And as Christians, we reject it. Because as Christians, what is our concern is to follow the Christ as his disciples wherever that leads us. So I leave it to you who are watching. Do you want the egotistical 21st century spirituality of the supermarket via Google dictated to you by the political narrative of the state? Or do you want the truth that was given by God through his prophets and apostles, that Christ is the Lord and Savior, the Son of God, incarnate of the Virgin Mary, crucified, rose on the third day, ascended into heaven, and is returning in judgment to judge the living and the dead? So, any questions?